Welcome back. Today we're tackling something that literally makes or breaks your entire organization, building a high-performance hiring system. We're getting into the actual science of talent acquisition. If you're tired of hiring feeling like a total roll of the dice, you'll want to stick around. We're going to replace that luck with a highly predictable framework.
But first, we've got to face a pretty uncomfortable reality. 78%. According to the research, a staggering 78% of candidates stretch the truth, exaggerate, or just flat out lie at some point during the hiring process. That is wild. So if you're relying purely on a polished resume and how much you vibed with someone in an interview, you're basically flying blind. We have to figure out how to cut through that deception.
All right, let's dive into our agenda for this explainer. We're covering why typical ads fail, the absolute biggest hiring mistakes, the terrifying snake-in-the-grass candidate, our attract, screen, verify framework, and finally, how to build an accountable environment.
Section 1. Why typical ads fail. The first touch point. So there's this massive gap between how average companies hire and how elite ones do. Your generic job ad, it's usually full of corporate buzzwords and a boring checklist of duties, trying to cast the widest net possible. But here's the thing, a high-performance culture doesn't need a net. It needs a filter. A strategic ad uses unapologetic, polarizing language. It spells out the real gritty challenges of the role. Why? Because the whole psychological goal here is to attract that top 10% of performers who actually want a challenge and literally repel the other 90% who are just looking for a comfy paycheck.
Moving right along to Section 2, the biggest hiring mistakes, hidden costs compound.
We really need to pinpoint where these hidden costs are bleeding your business dry, because these mistakes are entirely avoidable. First up, relying on a gut feeling after a single interview. I mean, come on, people can easily rehearse charm. Second, obsessing over someone's years of experience while completely ignoring whether they actually fit into a high accountability culture. That's a huge blind spot. Third, skipping rigorous verification. Remember that 78% of liars we talked about? Yeah, skipping this lets them walk right through your front door. And finally, relying on those vague, cookie-cutter job descriptions we just talked about. Which brings us to Section 3, the snake in the grass, the destructive hire.
You absolutely need to understand this specific archetype, the snake in the grass candidate. On the surface, during an unstructured, casual interview, they seem amazing, super charming, agreeable, and competent. They know exactly what you want to hear. But psychometrically, they score dangerously high on manipulativeness and incredibly low on integrity.
This is exactly why relying on simply liking someone is such a dangerous trap. The snake in the grass is a master at managing up. They flatter the boss, they completely agree with management, and they totally blind the decision-makers to reality. But behind the scenes, it's a different story. They are actively orchestrating conflict, spinning up toxic office politics, and driving away your actual top performers. You end up with managers defending this toxic person because, they're just so nice, while your best talent quietly packs their bags and leaves.
All right, Section 4, attract, screen, verify, an objective methodology.
This right here is the core framework of our explainer. This three-step model, attract, screen, verify, is your uncompromising filter for excellence. It's built to handle a ton of volume at the very top, but then aggressively narrow it down to find that one perfect candidate based on hard evidence, not just a slick personality.
Let's unpack. Step 1, attract. You have got to use extreme transparency here. Seriously, do not sugarcoat the job. Put the real, difficult challenges front and center. But honestly, my absolute favorite trick here is the hidden test instruction. Just bury a tiny request deep in the ad, like asking them to include a specific 3-sentence answer in their application. It's a brilliant mechanical filter. It instantly wipes out the spray-and-pray applicants who aren't paying attention. Think about it. If they can't follow a basic instruction to get the job, they definitely aren't going to follow instructions once they have the job.
Then we hit Step 2, screen. To get past those perfectly rehearsed interview personas, you have to assess candidates across 4 distinct factors. Number 1 is performance. What actual, measurable results have they delivered? That is crucial. Number 2, knowledge. Do they actually have the technical chops? Number 3, personality. Are they going to survive or, better yet, thrive in your specific culture? And 4, alignment. Do their personal, long-term goals match up with where the company is going? By scoring these independently, you totally strip away the bias of that first impression.
And finally, we arrive at Step 3, verify. This phase is all about demanding undeniable proof.
This is exactly how you catch that 78% who exaggerate. You literally cannot afford to skip this. You need to ask for concrete past metrics, demand real work samples, or even give them a relevant mini project to do. And when it comes to references, go deep. Don't just ask HR if they work there. Get their previous managers on the phone and ask exactly how this person ranked against their peers. Basically, it's prove it or lose it.
Last but not least, Section 5, Accountable Culture, Retaining Top Talent.
The research is crystal clear on this. High accountability directly drives your operational and financial performance. Let's say you nail the hiring process and land an elite top 10% performer. If you drop them into a chaotic environment with zero accountability, they are out of there. Top talent absolutely craves clear goals, total transparency, and fast feedback. The problem is most corporate cultures are built for the middle 50%, prioritizing artificial harmony and avoiding tough conversations. That is utterly draining for high performers. They want to work somewhere where excellence is celebrated and laziness just isn't tolerated.
So to actually keep this amazing talent, you have to engineer your environment on purpose. That means setting incredibly clear reference points for their role, so they know exactly what success looks like without having to guess. You also need to run weekly performance dashboards. Why weekly? Because waiting for a monthly review is just way too late to course-correct actual output. You've also got to hammer out clear policies to stop recurring issues in their tracks and adopt a strict zero-tolerance approach for avoidable bottlenecks. High performers will absolutely flourish when you clear the runway for them.
You know, accountability doesn't just magically happen. It gets baked into your corporate culture when you establish meaningful goals, build genuine trust, and foster an ecosystem where the team actually holds themselves accountable. When you stack a highly rigorous hiring process on top of a daily culture of accountability, you've essentially built the ultimate engine for predictable, massive scaling.
So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Are your current hiring systems actively building a high-performance culture, or are you just desperately trying to fill empty seats? The data tells us that relying on hope and a good gut feeling is a terrible strategy. By rolling out strategic attraction, 4-factor screening, ruthless verification, and a culture of real accountability, you finally stop gambling with your business's future. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today. Now go audit your own processes and start hiring with some actual clarity.